Hey, everybody, welcome back to Morning Sam, Morning Ralph. This is the podcast for restaurant technology professionals. And, you know, I wanted to bring something up because I get asked all the time, Morning Sam, Morning Ralph. What does that mean? And if you're a Gen Xer like me, then maybe you grew up watching Wile Coyote and Roadrunner or Wile E. Coyote and Sam the Sheepdog. Well, remember those two characters, Sam and Ralph? They would clock in the morning and they'd have a very cordial, "Good morning, Sam. Morning, Ralph." And then they'd go to work. And what was their job? Their job was essentially competing with one another, right? And they'd beat the crap out of each other all day long. But at the end of the day, they'd clock out together, arm around each other's shoulders, and go, "Good night, Sam. Good night, Ralph." They went away, they parted ways as friends. And that's really what Morning Sam, Morning Ralph podcast is all about in the restaurant technology sector. Listen, we all compete. We love healthy competition. But at the end of the day, we all help each other. We're all friends. And speaking of friends, I've got a really cool guy that is a friend to the industry. He's been around for a while. You know him, you love him. He's Chris Munz. And Chris, you know, he's one of these guys. He's a true explorer at heart, and he's a seasoned leader in restaurant technology. From his early days as a raft guide, where he learned the power of human connection and purposeful hospitality, to traveling the world virtually through tech innovation, Chris has pursued every opportunity to bring people together. And with over 20 years in this space, he's got this real sense of adventure that he puts inside of his business outlook. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. Chris is now with Fishbowl, and he's heading up all of their partnerships. And the topic of today's conversation is really about fueling sales through strategic partnerships in restaurant technology. So this is going to be a great episode, everybody. I can't wait to introduce Chris. We'll be back in 1 second.
Morning, Ralph. Morning, Sam.
Chris Munz.
What's going on, Paul? How you doing, man?
Dude, thanks so much for doing this pod with me, man. I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah. Listen, this is fun. Great topic, great people. I'm excited.
Awesome. Listen, so you've been on this partnership ride now in restaurant tech for a long time. What has been, tell me a little bit about what you're doing now with Fishbowl.
Yeah. So, I have to back up and tell you the story of Fishbowl because it precedes of where it's at. So Fishbowl's been around 25 years, which is amazing.
One of the greatest pivot stories ever these guys, I remember when they were just basically an email marketing company.
Exactly. Scott Shaw started it 25 years ago, actually on April 1st. So we're celebrating our birthday the other day. And it started off as an agency because, as we know, restaurants need help. They need extra set of hands. And it was a perfect fit. Pivoted in 2006 when he bought a little company called Quotient.
Yep.
And I was actually part of, and actually can say that I was acquired into the restaurant and hospitality industry, which was really fun and exciting. And then, from that time frame, worked with them as an email marketing company and helped operators understand how to, deliver value digitally and really create and help them understand what digital hospitality was, at least the infant stages of that.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, 3 years ago, they started reinventing the platform and building out a CDP, CRM, and peripherals with ESPs, right, and loyalty, but really centering around the idea of harmonizing a customer profile. So being able to take bits and pieces from all these silos of data that we have, putting them into one central database, and then being able to use them, either a push and pull, right? So being able to send messaging, or, send, ideas, or, personalization to other peripherals.
Right. I mean, I'm going to put some screenshots up here. I love the way that Fishbowl positions themselves as this guest relationship management platform, this combination of CRM and CDP, right? Where you have the ability to get all of this first party data and then synthesize it into really great recommendations for content and offers.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and some of the clients that you're working with are absolutely lights out as well. So this concept of a guest relationship management platform, that's pretty. Is that something that Fishbowl has? Is that a phrase that Fishbowl has coined? Is that
No,
their concept?
the GRM is, yes. Like, we're the only CDP that is focused on restaurants. There are other CDPs and stuff,
Yeah,
and but focused on restaurants specifically, and come from a different mindset from just the data. So the data is great,
yeah,
but it's what the data creates.
right.
And then, so being experts in the email business for the last 25 years, it's having this renaissance back because people have been trained to receive emails from brands. What they really want is those emails now to be personalized. We have the means now to create one-on-one relationships,
That's
not
right.
only through email but SMS, through the kiosks, which I know we'll talk about in a bit. But right, or even, from a reservation perspective of being able to know exactly what that person is. And it only happens when you unpack the data and put it back together in a systematic way and in a usable way
Yeah,
that's understandable to the restaurant operator.
absolutely. I mean, it's really data. All of these different data points, right? And one of the things about data is that it data travels, right? It travels from almost, for every part of the tech stack, has got its hands on this data. And this is why I really wanted to talk to you today about partnerships, because Fishbowl, like every other great restaurant technology company, is super dependent upon how it fits inside of the tech stack and who it's working with, and who it partners with, and how it interconnects and integrates with other technology solutions in the stack. And so partnerships play a really important role, because in order for Fishbowl to do a great job, it has to, it's collecting data from different places. It's processing data from different places. It's reconfiguring, it's utilizing data and perhaps putting out very prescriptive um, recommendations to the restaurants themselves as to what to do next. So,
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about how Fishbowl has had success with partnerships, how that perhaps maybe unlocked some of its success.
Yeah, it's the key to the success of Fishbowl, because we're only as good as the data that we have coming in and the connections. And the biggest problem in our industry right now is the fact that there's all these silos. There's 17 to 20 different systems that are running these operations today.
Yeah,
A large majority of them capture guest data, but they live within that system unless
that's
they're
right.
connected to a CDP or a CRM, or or being used in other capacities. But somebody needs to stand up and say, "Hey, I'm going to be the central warehouse of data
Yeah.
for all guests," and that's what we're doing, right? That's what we're saying. Like, let's unpack the silos. We'll work with everybody to make sure that we are bringing in the right data at the right time so that you can be more successful and have actual positive impact on your bottom line.
So, give me so what are the types, what kind of companies are you partnering with for integrations? Maybe you can describe for me how Fishbowl sits in where Fishbowl sits in the tech stack, and what other players does it have to work with in order for it to execute?
Yeah, so it's online ordering companies, it's loyalty platforms, it's ad platforms as well,
Okay.
which is an interesting one. It could be influencer marketing. Um, and a lot of that ties back to our attribution tool that we have. But again, it all centers around understanding who that guest is and meeting them where they're at.
Right. And so that it comes back to that profile, right? Where, if they know Paul Molinari, of course Fishbowl, I think, is the one that you're the guys that like invented the birthday
Birthday
contact,
welcome and
right?
anniversary.
Right. So my birthday, which is great because I'll get a flood of coupons from all these different brands then. But more importantly, you're also collecting information about my frequency, how often I'm in the locations, what locations I visit, what my average check size might be, how many people am I dining with at a time. All of this information sort of turns into this profile. But again, I think it's like the thing I'm trying to get to is Fishbowl can't do that alone.
No.
It's all of these different other components. And that could be from the credit card companies to the
Yeah,
point of sale,
yeah, it
to
could
the
be
right.
processors, right? It really could be anyone. So that's the piece from the product standpoint. The other part that I see from a partnership perspective, and I look at myself as a steward of the industry.
Yeah.
We've been around way too long, right? To not use the power of all the conversations we've had, all the learnings we've had, to create this partner-centric model that is one part of it is integrations and getting the data in. The other one is vetting out systems that make sense for operators and
Okay.
helping them bring to market. And I know that's part of what you do for your business.
Yeah.
I see Fishbowl has actually an obligation to the industry, and I do as well as part of this, is to bring the right solutions to the market that make business sense based on what we know of being in this industry a long time. And I think that's really important to the partner ecosystem and where we are from an industry perspective. I think we've actually come.
There is this kind of vetting process that you need to go through, the head of partnerships, for a major restaurant tech brand like Fishbowl, and you're being approached, I would imagine, frequently by other restaurant technology companies that want to partner with you, that want to work with a company like Fishbowl. It's incumbent upon you to do your due diligence to really understand, you know, who this company is that is approaching us. What do they do? How do they fit? How have they proven themselves? Maybe you can describe for me, what are the steps? What do you look for in a partner, particularly with a Fishbowl? Again, a Fishbowl is one of these brands that we have in our space that we can all look to as being a leader. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to speak with you today is because as a leading, being the leader of a partnerships for a major restaurant tech brand, I'm really interested, and I know the audience is as well. Is what are you looking for, Chris? Like in a partner?
Yeah, first and foremost, good people,
Yeah,
right? Wants to beat to the same drum, has the idea of that the mission is to help.
yeah,
You know, if you come with the mindset that you're just here to make money, um, operator's going to read right through that, and that's a piece of it. We'll all make money, right, as part of this, and we are here for that, right? But the first and foremost is that do they have the vision to help? Do they understand how the restaurant ecosystem actually works from a technical perspective?
yeah.
And do they have the tech chops, right? They have to. They can't be thinking myopically, right? I just solved this one problem because what I've seen happen is that They might want to swim upstream. They think they're going to sell to enterprise, but enterprise is a whole different beast than mid-market and SMB when it
Yeah.
comes to technology and how you develop it and the questions you're going to get. So getting into those tech chops is important. And it has to come from the sales, the partnership aspect of it, and then it has to be backed up from the tech side of things, right? Can they actually, develop?
Absolutely. It's absolutely a culture. It's a cultural thing, right? You definitely want to partner with the right people. They definitely need, I'm just parroting back to you. It's got to be a culture fit. It's got to be a tech fit. They have to have a vision. And when I say vision, it's not a singular sort of, like you said, myopic, what's in it for me today, but rather what is, what is the big goal that we're all heading towards? And there has to be some alignment there.
Yeah,
One,
partnerships take time.
that's,
You know,
yeah,
they don't happen overnight, and it's a slow, methodical process. And anybody that wants to go fast, I'm not interested in that, right? Because um, fast doesn't mean you gain success. I feel it's like the tortoise and the hare, right?
yeah,
Slow, methodical understanding, and then of how we can work together
right.
and bring something to market. I was talking with Tom Fox over at Ansa,
Yeah.
and he has the same
Good
mindset.
cat. Yep.
Yeah, a great guy, and listen, he's been around, and you know, me and him have the same philosophy in the sense that, like, let's figure this out. Let's have the conversations. Let's talk about this. Plant the seeds, sow the seeds. It will grow something, right? If you just keep nurturing it.
That's
You know,
right. The tortoise and that's so funny because I was in a previous episode, another partnership person that I really respect, I had on Crystal Craven, who's
mhm.
over at Synergy. She said something very similarly where it was like, oh my God, if they're looking to go really fast, that's just like the biggest red flag ever. Because those folks it's just not the way it works. There's too many stakeholders. There's too many relationships that need to be made across the different, across both parties before there can really be real traction. So you got to plant those seeds.
Yeah.
One I'd love to learn more about. I read, I don't know if it was last month, but a friend of ours, Rolf Gehring, the CEO of Sintra, you
Mhm.
guys just did recently a partnership with for voice AI. Was Ross have a has a pro pardon me, Rolf has a product called Breeze, right? So you're integrating that into it's they have kiosks. Actually, let me read the quote from the press release because I really liked it. Rolf says, partnering with Fishbowl is a natural fit, said Rolf Gehring, CEO of Breeze. Our kiosks are designed to transform the dining experience, and with Fishbowl's expertise in marketing and data-driven insights, we're excited to expand our reach to deliver exceptional value to restaurant operators. So you're building now, this is a kiosk manufacturer with voice AI. Tell me about this. How is this such a natural fit?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, right, we've moved over and now have this centralized database. And one of the things that I'm hearing in the industry is that, they need these peripherals. If we're going to replace people,
Yep.
and that's what these kiosks are doing,
I
they
like to think augmenting service,
augmenting service.
enhancing and augmentation. Sure.
Yeah, that is ripping the Band-Aid off slow, man. I'm just saying. I went full force on it. Or reallocating resources is another one
All
that
right.
we
That's fair. Fair.
um, or people just don't want to work and they can't get enough people to actually do these
Listen,
jobs.
I just want the order to be right. Okay. Can we just start with that?
Exactly. And that's the crux of this problem that kiosk solves,
Yeah.
right? I become the controller. And we've been doing this for years, online ordering, mobile ordering, right? There's no reason that this shouldn't be in store. But there's an obligation if we're going to put technology into these establishments from a consumer perspective. We have an obligation to help these operators create the experience that the guest actually wants and not
Right.
try to shoehorn an experience that we think, because we're tech nerds, that they want. And what really they want is just a faster means to whatever it is that they order. And the data will tell us what they actually want. And what we're seeing is that they want a faster experience. So, how do you provide that if you have the information of their last order as an example? Well, why don't you just tell them, do you want to order the same thing? And have them push that button. That's it. Super simple, super easy step. And that's the stuff that we're working on with and why we see the synergy of what they provide and what we provide mashing up
I
together.
love that because you're bringing the data that allows for that personalization, right? It's because we all want a highly personalized experience. I think there's a lot of us that believe that that personalization, that highly personalized experience inside and outside of the restaurant, that brand experience, it needs to be, it's fueled by data. And so much of that data could be overlaid with, demographics and psychographics and stuff like that. But it's also historical data too, based upon the behaviors of the guest previously. All of that is great. And it's going to give you a tremendous amount of insights into who this guest is, what they like, what they gravitate to. But at the same time, now you're using a company like Cintra and Breeze to actually execute on it, right? So now you're taking the data and now you are executing a personalized offer, response, interaction that just became really exciting, I think, for the guests now, right? That's a
Yeah,
cool partnership. It's like it's peanut butter and chocolate there working together.
I agree. I think, there's infinite amounts of use cases. Um, because the consumer, yeah, they want that one-to-one experience. They want to feel comfortable when they walk into the restaurant that this thing is going to help them,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to hinder, and it's not a burden on them. They want it to be this experience, right? They want it to be Disney World. And if it knows their name, it can what if it could identify, and it can, what if it
Yeah.
could identify them by facial recognition?
That's one of the conversation. Another this so you asked me even before we started, why are you doing these podcasts? Well, it's because I want to learn, man. I love like learning about all this stuff. I had a conversation with the manufacturers, like, oh my God, we got to put cameras in all of our kiosks. Like even though they're not even turned on yet or we're not using them, it's future proofing because the reality is there's going to be a time when facial recognition is going to be something that the restaurant, maybe the guest wants, and the restaurants want too, because there has to be, a meeting of the minds there. But yeah, so once you have that facial recognition, I'm sure that will also be built into the Fishbowl platform. But
Yeah.
again, it takes another company because you guys aren't making kiosks and you're not making hardware.
And I don't want to. I don't want to
Right.
make the software. I want to do what I do really well,
Yeah.
right? Fishbowl's really good at consolidating the data, creating messaging journeys within SMS and email, and creating tokens for attribution, right? That's what we're really good at.
Yeah.
And I want to stay really good at that. But what I want to do is leverage the other smart people and solutions that are out on the market to bring that, right? So that we can advance this industry we're in.
So let's shift gears here from a successful partnership like a recent one you did with Rolf and Sintra to something that maybe where you've had some challenges and have encountered some problems with a partnership that may have started off on the right foot and then went south. Can without you don't we love naming names, but if without naming names is fine too. But can you talk about your experience about how you can see a partnership kind of devolving and what to look out for there?
Yeah, I think early in when I started doing partnerships, I think getting so excited about the idea,
Yeah.
and not really understanding the meat and potatoes of that idea. And I think that, what do they say in the Northeast here, right? You get ahead of your skis.
Oh yeah, baby. We know that.
Right? And so, like, sometimes I think that you get ahead of your skis and you get so engrossed in the idea, but there's not enough of substance either in the understanding the market fit to actually it being vaporware, right? I've covered the gamut in that. It exists and stuff. And, I'd like to think that in my older years now that I've learned enough, I've stumbled enough that I know and see some of those things that are ahead. I take all calls, by the way, like partnership. I want to
Yeah.
learn about every new solution that's out there on the market.
Yeah.
And, I have some principles and ideas of, what makes sense and to sniff out if it would be worth it. But I still want to hear about these ideas
But it is
because,
the idea, right? I totally agree with you, Chris. It's like I love the initial brainstorm, the big idea, right? Nothing ever happens without any real impact without the big idea. It is worthwhile to explore that big idea together. And then it's like it feels, through that path and through that journey where you're now building the relationship, well, that's when things start to become clear. It's like, okay, we got this great idea, but I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to work with these guys.
yeah, you get a gut feeling. Like partnerships is really about the people and the gut feeling. And then, do you want to work with these people?
Yeah.
Are they going to have your back when you go to market, right? I always say this in sales, like 90% of sales is the confidence in the people behind you. The other
Explain. That's
10%.
good. Talk a little bit more about that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, technology can do a lot of things and people can build a lot of stuff. But if they're telling you, behind the scenes, your team, that, yeah, we can do that, we can integrate that, it's going to take X amount of months, I'm staking my reputation and I feel more confident on that because I know they got my back or they've had my back.
Right.
It applies to partnerships, like internally or externally with a third party company. Same thing. Do they have my back? Are they gonna, show up when I need them to show up? Because that makes it more confident for me to go to my customers or to my prospects and say, "Hey, I got a really interesting solution that I think solves a real problem based on my experience."
Right. And so, and another fascinating, I think, aspect of the partnership relationship and how both companies can build. And that is balancing this big idea off of the clientele, off of the restaurants themselves, right? Because you think it's a great idea, prospective partner thinks it's a great idea. Team has your back. They say, "Yeah, we can build that shit." Their team says, "Great. Okay, cool. Well, now we got to actually go out there and figure out, is there a market fit for this big idea that we think there is?" So maybe you could talk a little bit about how do you take that partnership then to the next level where both you've had the time to spend with the other tech company, they've got tech chops, they've got good culture, there's synergies there. How do you now begin approaching the clientele? Like, you go to In-N-Out Burger and say, "I got this big idea. What do you think?" Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be hard, right? You should
Right.
just be able to call up your best customers and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, what do you think of this idea?" Involve them in the process.
Oh, I love that.
There's no reason that they shouldn't be involved in vetting these solutions out too, right? Yes, they might have a great idea. I have a great idea, but the third piece of this is the operator who's going to give thumbs up, thumbs down. And they're the most important aspect of it. And so it's really about the learning, the confidence piece. And then I feel comfortable. I'm just going to bring an operator in that I trust their opinion. I respect their opinion. I want their opinion to help me guide this. If they buy it or not,
Yeah.
great. I learned something along the way, right? At the end of the day, we're all learning. And we, as on the other side of it, we have to help the operator understand this stuff because,
That's right.
I don't know how many times I get 30, 40, 50 sales calls a day. I get 500 emails. I don't know what's real. They're all telling me I'm going to make money. I'm going to save money. What's real? What's not? Help me. They're raising their hands. Help me, please.
Yeah.
I can't take
Oh,
another.
this is so real and so true, Chris. It's absurd. So, Popcorn, we partner with Matt Hazelhoff and Mike Falcone over at One Goal. We're the marketing arm for them. And they've got 9 to 12 technology vendors, including one or two of my clients is one of them as well.
Which, by the way, I love what they're doing. Their whole program that they're running. I love it. I
Yeah.
think
That's awesome to hear. And I'll tag them in the video. But they hear this all the time. The restaurant brands are absolutely overwhelmed with sales calls from, tech providers, large and small, popular and unpopular, known and unknown. And it becomes not just fatiguing, but in some ways almost paralyzing, where they're not sure what to do or what to believe. And this is where, you and I, we were talking a little bit before we started with, there's this belief now that partnerships, which is really relationships,
Mhm.
is now truly the key that opens the door to opportunity in this space. So these partnership people, and whether it's someone like you, Chris, or the Crystal Cravens, of the world, or the Matt Hazelhoffs, that kind of approach where, listen, I'm real. I'm not going to steer the wrong way. We're friends. We've been friends for a long time. That becomes now almost the most valuable thing that you can have in this space because it's overwhelming. Listen, we're both now with AI and you can say whatever you like about it. The reality is that it is creating a lot of new ideas and a lot of new companies. And the market is absolutely jamming with brimming with creativity and solutions. But is that paralyzing? I mean,
It totally is. Especially for non-tech companies. We love it, right? We're eating this stuff up
yeah,
because we understand the technical challenges that are just compounding each and every day. And we're always, look at us like we're Indiana Jones trying to find that holy grail, right?
yeah.
To solve these innate problems that just keep on popping up. And there's always going to be problems with this industry. We add more tech, something else will come, right? What I like about the partnership aspect. So, are you familiar with Moore's law?
Yes, ultimately things get cheaper.
They do. Part of it. The other
Yeah,
part
go
of it
ahead. Help me out, bro. I
is,
know of it.
yeah, there's infinite possibilities.
Okay.
And so this as we start to add more people and more conversations, more ideas, you create that tribe, that network
Yeah.
of solutions, feature functionalities that could live within a platform. There's parallel paths then start merging and connections, and we're really at that forefront. I see it in all sorts of different industries, but how it applies to us is that there's this younger generation,
Yeah.
there's these older generation products, and now they are now being able to be synced. Um, but the bigger part of it is that knowledge share and expertise, the whys. And that is the most powerful thing that we can give to the operator. And the operator now feels more like all they want us to do is work together.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, that's literally it, right?
that's it. That's the
And
crux of
and
this.
how often do we hear about, certain tech firms without naming names, but create almost like this roadblock that make it really difficult
A lot of them
to
have been doing it for years.
Yeah.
and they're dinosaurs, and they're gonna die like dinosaurs did. And that's just the reality, because companies that embrace the partner centric ecosystem and want to be friends and get pennies from everyone, right? And spread the wealth. Those are the ones that will win.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, as we mentioned even earlier, when you think about how we foresee partnerships evolving in the restaurant technology space, it is in tying it back into sales strategy. It really feels as if a partner centric sales strategy is the right way to do it. And the way that you do that is by forging relationships with like cultures, technology chops, and having this big idea that is really clear and can very easily be articulated to a client where it makes sense, right? So, for example, Fishbowl has many amazing brands that you work with. And I'm a technology player that's made, I don't know, that's the flavor of the moment right now is voice AI, of course.
Yeah.
But not all technology, vendors are perfect fits for every restaurant brand, but I know that you work with X Fishbowl works with X brand, and I know my solution would be so perfect for them. I mean, you'll take the call. You'll want to learn how that could fit. And then your wheels will start turning. You say, well, yeah, it would be great with this brand, but
Yeah.
it would be great with these other brands too, because I know their business.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's that planting the seed piece of it.
Yeah,
And and it's why I take the calls. Like, it feeds the fire,
right.
because we know there's multiple challenges that these guys are all trying to solve on a day-to-day basis. Been around the business a long time. We've asked those questions, and now it's our job to go and find the right people that can help them. And I think that's the exciting part. Here's the other exciting part for me, because we have this partner-centric model, and
Yeah,
I think this is key to partnerships. Is my sales team is excited about partnerships. They don't see it as a burden where, in years past, right? Oh, and here comes the partnership guy that's going to give me a sell sheet and going to tell me to go and find people to sell. Where now they're excited because they see this as an exciting project that Chris is going to help them with, right?
that's
It's
right.
not go sell this because we need to make money off of this. It's here's a cool project. Here's a touch point for me to go to my customer and tell them about, and have the support behind me.
Right.
Because if Chris believes in it, then I know it's going to happen. And nothing more exciting than to have my team excited about partnership and how it can help them help their customer
That's right.
make better use of
Because
our
they're
platform.
also bringing value now too, right? Your sales guys are bringing value to the brands where, hey, let me tell you about something that our company is really behind. We think you're going to hear more about it. You probably want to hear about it from us, and they can start explaining at least the high level technology that you may be partnering with. One of my clients is, we were talking earlier, is a company called Curbit. And, Curbit's here's this really amazing technology that essentially makes sure that your food, when you order food off premise, it's ready at the precise promised time that they said it's going to be ready, right? Nobody wants to be waiting around for their food, wondering where it is. Curbit lets you know exactly when your food's going to be ready. And in order for this technology to work, it's not an app, it's not a standalone thing. It's like middleware, right? It sits in between the order management system like an Olo or a
Mhm.
Toast, and the KDS like QSR automations. It sits in between those things. And so they are extraordinarily reliant on partnerships
Yep.
to sell. And what I love about the Curbit story and the success of their partnerships is that it makes Olo a better product. It makes QRS Automations a better product. It makes Toast it makes all of their different partners essentially an enhanced now value for the restaurants. And the way that they work is it's all partnership driven. They certainly have sales guys that, are knocking on doors, doing what they can. But once the restaurants learned, oh, you mean it works with my Olo? Oh, you mean it works with my QSR KDS?
Yeah. You just solved two problems for them.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, it works with my Fishbowl? So I do think that we're going to see more of these middleware type solutions enhancing these mainstay product lines like Fishbowls, like Olos, etc.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
I agree 100%. Actually, my friend Catherine Barone, who runs third party and first
Yeah.
party over at Red Lobster, she just wrote a LinkedIn post about this. And I agree 100%. I think we are heading towards like most of the platforms, they're not platforms, right? I think there's a handful of platforms out there.
Yeah.
And then there's feature functionality. And what they're turning into is these middleware systems. And we're now creating this middleware ecosystem, which I think is really exciting to me because they're just plug and play now.
Right.
And that, from an operator perspective, that's huge because now you have one platform, bunch of middlewares that connect to them, and all you're doing is flipping the switch, right? It's no different than being an electrician, and you have your main box. And then you have all your switches and your outlets, right? And that's what the middleware is. And that's where I think that is huge for this industry. It shows the maturity of it, right? This industry is not that old.
Well, not what we're doing. I mean, I could tell, I remember 10, 12 years ago, it was a completely different industry where people were still a little nervous about putting their information in the cloud. So let's
and they had on-premise boxes in the back that ran their entire business.
Their entire business, like on some desktop thing that's behind underneath a desk somewhere.
And that's not that long ago.
No, it's not. Yeah, I
so we
remember.
have to understand that to understand where it's going to be within really the next couple of years. But I think we're plowing full steam ahead towards these middleware systems that help connect the dots.
Right. But without that due diligence, though, making sure that these middleware systems, they still need to pass muster, right? They still need to pass like the Chris Munz, obstacle course of, being vetted properly, culturally, technologically, perhaps, financially, all of these things, that make up a good, stable, solid partnership for the long term.
Yeah. So
this has been awesome. Listen, we're coming up on time. So I want to make sure that we tell all of our listeners how they can connect with you. Maybe also where you're going next. Are you going to RLC or NRA or any of these things?
I'll be at the NRA show, which I'm super excited. I love the Super Bowl of restaurants and hospitality. So I will be there.
I'll buy you a beer, man.
Listen, I fear no beer. I turn down no free beer.
All right. You got it, brother.
Yeah, so you find me there, but you can also find me online. I'm on LinkedIn, Chris Munz. That's where I spend a lot of my time. Or find me at cmunz@fishbowl.com, or go check out what Fishbowl's up to. Like I said, I'll take any meeting. If anybody's got good ideas, I'm all ears. I love it. It fuels my creativity in this space.
You are a scholar and a gentleman, Mr. Munz. Thank you so much, sir. This has been awesome. All right.
Yeah, this has been fun, man. You got me to explore a lot of things that I'm working on, and sometimes you don't get to talk about that side of it. You just you're in the
weeds. Yeah, I want to get you out of the weeds, and this has been great, brother. Thanks so much. So everybody, morning Sam, morning Ralph. We're out.
See ya.
Morning Sam.